Welcome to the That Damn Progressive podcast. I am your host, David Croft. On this podcast, I plan to call out all the bullshit we see in politics today and to put my voice out there in the ever-growing progressive media landscape. I honestly don't care about clicks. For all I know, only 10 people will end up listening to this podcast, and I'm fine with that. For those of you who decided to give this show a chance, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for doing so. Now, on to today's episode, where we will be talking about Donald Trump threatening NBC News and all other media outlets whose coverage of him he doesn't like, the Biden impeachment not being popular among voters according to a new poll, Democratic Senator Bob Menendez being indicted on federal bribery charges, and more. It reeks of stupidity on the inaugural episode of the That Damn Progressive podcast. Trump is calling for NBC News to be investigated on the grounds that they are, and I quote, the enemy of the people, according to a new report by Khalida Rahman for Newsweek. Now, to be fair, Trump calls every single news outlet that covers anything and everything wrong that he does the enemy of the people. This, of course, coming after Trump had a softball interview on NBC's Meet the Press. An interview, by the way, that legal experts said might have tainted his defense against federal criminal charges. Criminal charges that are related to his failed coup attempt after losing the 2020 election. Now Trump posted this truth on his failing social media platform, Truth Social. I almost said it like he did. And fucking hell is it a doozy. Let me get ready for my little impersonation.
I did everything right in the end.
I sounded like the monster lady from Monsters, Inc. Okay, so let me try this again.
And they're almost all dishonest and corrupt.
So right away we have projection because, as we all know, Donald Trump was the most corrupt president in the history of this country. But he continues.
But Comcast, with its one-sided and vicious coverage by NBC News, and in particular MSNBC.
Once again referring to his belief that MSNBC is run by the Democratic National Committee.
Should be investigated for its country-threatening treason.
Country-threatening treason? You mean like how your supporters stormed the Capitol building on January 6, 2021, wanting to hang Mike Pence and other members of Congress? Do you mean like how your supporters disrupted the peaceful transfer of power all because of countless lies you've told them? Which, of course, is in your First Amendment right, but you still had a role in energizing them with your little rally. Excuse me. Donald, NBC News and MSNBC were doing their jobs and actually reporting on all your misdeeds, blunders, and dangerous and asinine ideas. Do you even know what the word treason means? I have a strong feeling that at least half of your supporters don't know the meaning of the word treason, so allow me to explain what the word treason means. Treason, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is 1. The offense of attempting by overt acts to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance, or to kill or to personally injure the sovereign or the sovereign's family, and 2, the betrayal of a trust or treachery. You took an oath of office when you were inaugurated on January 20th, 2017, where you swore not only to execute the office of the presidency, but also to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. The very document written by the Founding Fathers of the United States that you think should not apply to you at all. The same can be said about the rule of law, but that's for another segment. You and your supporters who attended your rally that fateful day on January 6th committed fucking treason. And that, along with your ongoing threats against anyone who calls you out or reports the truth on you, in my book, and quite possibly Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, if states' attorneys general get their way, is reason enough for you to never run for any type of political office again. A new Yahoo News YouGov poll released earlier this week has found that most Americans aren't convinced that President Joe Biden deserves to be charged or removed from office. The poll was conducted from September 14th to 18th and found that only 37% of Americans currently believe Biden should be impeached, while 42% believe Biden should not be impeached. So let's break this down for just a moment. 37% want Biden to be impeached, while 42% do not. That means there's a 5% difference between being for or against a Biden impeachment. Of course, Republicans don't have any goddamn evidence against Joe Biden. All they have are accusations and copies of the president's bank records. I will repeat that in case there are any Republicans listening to this podcast by some fucking miracle. House Republicans already have Joe Biden's bank records. They have gone through his bank records and found no evidence backing up their claims of corruption. Hell, the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability has a report saying as much on their website that was published in May of this year. Now, I want to read a couple of bold statements in that report. Once again, Chairman Comer has failed to provide factual evidence to support his wild accusations about the president. He continues to bombard the public with innuendo, misrepresentations, and outright lies, recycling baseless claims from stories that were debunked years ago. Unable to implicate the president directly, committee Republicans have resorted to using cherry-picked bank records, misrepresentations about confidential and unverified bank records, known as ASRs, and baseless conspiracy theories to attack the president's family, including his grandchildren. They know no low, do they? There's no low. There's no fucking low. Let's face it. Another quote I would like to read. In a press conference and report released today, again, this was back in May, committee Republicans highlighted cherry-picked information from bank records and misrepresentations about... bear with me, guys. I'm getting really revved up here. About SARs as part of their latest effort to promote tired, debunked, and baseless conspiracy theories about President Biden and members of his family. And this is probably the important part. Bank records reviewed by the committee do not indicate any wrongdoing by President Biden, nor do they show any connection to policy decisions. As Cenk Uygur would say, of course! But I honestly feel that this line from the committee's report best sums up their findings. Republicans are recycling old news and long debunked conspiracies. Long debunked conspiracies are all the Republicans have left besides any culture war nonsense. So I read that line from the House Oversight Committee. Only one thought ran through my mind. No fucking shit. The topic of impeachment, House Republicans this week began making their case for the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden under the guise of accountability. Now, keep in mind that House Republicans claim President Biden was in on his son Hunter Biden's business dealings overseas. According to a report from the Associated Press, Republican Representative James Comer, who just so happens to be the House Oversight Committee chairman, said that they have a mountain of evidence that in his mind and in the minds of his Republican House colleagues will show that Joe Biden, and I quote, abused his power of office for his family's financial gain. As I mentioned earlier, House Republicans don't have any evidence of wrongdoing on Joe Biden's part. They went through his bank records. They subpoenaed from those banks 6 fucking times. And they still have found no evidence at all of corruption. 0, nothing, no goddamn evidence. In fact, according to reporting by NBC News, quote, none of the witnesses were fact witnesses, meaning none were involved in the investigation or the alleged activities the hearings was discussing. Instead, all 3 were introduced as experts in their respective fields. No shit. However, there is a quote from Republican Congressman Jim Jordan that I find amusing. Jim Jordan called the allegations about President Biden, quote, a tale as old as time. A politician takes action that makes money for his family, and then he tries to conceal it. In the same way you tried to conceal the rapes of the college athletes on the wrestling team by the school physician that you were working at, Jim Jordan. This is absolutely fucking rich, coming from a hypocritical asshat like yourself, Congressman. Your own party looked through the bank records. Your party subpoenaed from President Biden's banks and found no evidence of corruption. One of the panel's expert witnesses during this hearing, a law professor and turns out Fox News legal analyst, by the name of Jonathan Turley, pointed out that the supposed evidence Republicans claim they have so far does not prove their case. This is a witness who the Republican Party in the U.S. House of Representatives personally brought in to back them up, and even he was saying they don't have any evidence. But it was the Democrats' witness, I believe it was the Democrats' witness anyways, Michael J. Gerhardt, a law professor from the University of North Carolina, who concluded if that's what exists as a basis for this inquiry, it is not sufficient. I say that with all respect. After dealing with the reasons Republicans claim they had to impeach President Biden, then adding, a fishing expedition is not a legitimate purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, I'm no road dog Jesse James, so bear with me. So, ladies and gentlemen who have not been paying attention to this entire sham from the get-go, this entire impeachment party is nothing more than a fishing expedition, as Mr. Gerhardt so cleverly put it, and accurately I might add, and B, a means to distract the public from the fact that they are the ones responsible for the upcoming government shutdown, which is looking more and more likely as each hour goes by and House Republicans do absolutely nothing to avoid the inevitable. Not just Donald Trump and his supporters and willful idiots who are being criminally charged. As this past Friday, September 22nd, Democratic New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez was indicted by federal prosecutors in New York on bribery charges. According to the indictment as reported by Paul Blumenthal for HuffPost, Senator Menendez allegedly accepted $100,000 in gold bars and $480,000 in cash in exchange for official acts that aided, and I'm sorry if I butcher these names, Wael Hannah, Jose Uribe, and Fred Debiz, and the government of Egypt. In exchange for these gifts, and I use that word loosely here, Senator Menendez allegedly secured a lucrative contract in Egypt to monopolize the market for certifying imported halal meat, no idea what the fuck that is, as well as secure military aid for Egypt. This isn't the first time Menendez has faced bribery charges, as he faced similar charges in 2015 for aiding a doctor in committing Medicare fraud. Rick Scott, does that sound familiar? And received lavish gifts from the doctor in order to intervene on his behalf. The gifts included vacations and hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign cash through a super PAC. That trial took place in 2017 and resulted in a hung jury. As for the charges this time around, Senator Menendez is firmly denying the allegations, claiming that the charges are part of a conspiracy against him in order to try and silence him. How Trumpian of you, Senator. Now keep in mind that his wife, Nadine Menendez, is also facing similar charges. Senator Menendez said in a statement, "For years, forces behind the scenes have repeatedly attempted to silence my voice and dig my political grave." Oh, for fuck's sake. Where have we heard that one before? He continues, "Since this investigation was leaked nearly a year ago, there has been an active smear campaign of anonymous sources and innuendos to create an air of impropriety where none exists." Again, how Trumpian of you, Senator. Okay, so this investigation has been going on for a year, and we, the people, or me at least, are just now learning about it, which is how the investigative process normally works. Now, in the past, specifically in the Christ knows how many investigations into Donald Trump since he's left office, we have seen investigations, play out as the case or cases are being built. However, when it comes to this case, we did not know about it until the senator was charged last Friday. Now, I did a little digging and found on the United States Attorney's website for the Southern District of New York all the evidence they have on Senator Menendez and his wife. According to the press release, the evidence includes cash, gold, the luxury convertible, and home furnishings. Over $480,000 in cash, much of it stuffed into envelopes and hidden in clothing, closets, and a safe, was discovered in the home, as well as over $70,000 in cash in Nadine Menendez's safe deposit box, which was also searched pursuant to a separate search warrant. Some of the envelopes contained fingerprints and or DNA of Diabez, or his driver. Other envelopes were found inside jackets bearing Menendez's name and hanging in his closet. Wow. Senator Menendez, I hate to break it to you, but you and your wife are going to need a really good defense attorney, because it looks like to me that you are both royally fucked. Radical, repugnant, disgusting, conspiracy-loving Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took to the podcast of the equally disgusting human being known as Charlie Kirk to announce that she is drafting a declaration of war against Mexico. Well, she claims it's actually against Mexican drug cartels, but I'm not buying that heaping load of bullshit she happens to be selling. This is coming from a report published by Mediaite on September 21st of this year. Greene told Kirk, and I quote, "Charlie, today in Washington, D.C., we had President Zelensky came to the Capitol today, of course, talking with leaders with Washington, wanting billions and billions more dollars, Americans' hard-earned tax dollars, to go to war in Ukraine, defend the Ukraine's border, while at the same time Washington, D.C. is completely ignoring the invasion happening at our border." So right away, we have a lie. Border Patrol under the Biden administration has caught more people crossing our southern border than the Trump administration did, part of that being because the pandemic hampered border crossings. And it's also a fact that Republicans refuse to accept. Greene continued.
There have been over 10,000 people invading Eagle Pass in the last 24 hours. This is unprecedented. Our country is under attack, and who is leading the attack, Charlie? Is the Mexican cartels. And so I'm announcing on your show that I would like to get Washington to realize who our real enemy is to the American people, who are responsible for the 300 Americans dying every single day from fentanyl, who is responsible for a multi-billion-dollar human trafficking and drug trafficking industry that directly affects the United States of America. And that is the Mexican cartels. Not the Mexican government, not the Mexican people. So I am currently drafting a declaration of war against Mexican cartels.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying this at a time when Republican presidential candidate and unfortunately the governor of my home state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, has said in interviews he wants to shoot anyone coming over our southern border. And when he was asked how he could tell the difference between drug cartel members and innocent families with children trying to seek asylum, he merely said, "I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, so I can tell a difference." Ron, many troops sent to Iraq and Afghanistan couldn't tell the difference between civilians and actual terrorists. Have you not seen the military video of American airmen dropping bombs on civilians and laughing about it? You don't believe me? Go ask Chelsea Manning. She was the one who made the video public. I honestly think you haven't seen it, though, you sick fuck. As for Marjorie Taylor Greene's war fantasy, it is nothing more than a proposed war against a concept, much like the war on terror was a war against a concept. Republicans in Congress and state houses and governorships are bloodthirsty. Now, keep in mind, this does not apply to all of them. Just look at Chris Christie. He, as an example, I mean. But these are people who are wanting a better life. They don't want to be stuck in places like Venezuela where the country is literally falling apart. But the message coming from these types of Republicans who are absolutely bloodthirsty is loud and clear. Come to our country and we will kill you, no questions asked. Failed former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake this week told the Wall Street Journal that she will be holding a rally on October 10th of this year, where it is speculated she will be announcing her candidacy in the 2024 Arizona Senate race for the Senate seat currently held by recently independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema. This would in effect turn that Senate race into a three-way race, between Sinema, Lake, and Democratic Representative Ruben Gallego. I think that's how you pronounce that. If I botched it, someone please correct me. Keep in mind, this is the same Kari Lake who still hasn't accepted her narrow loss, and I use the word narrow loosely here, to Democrat Katie Hobbs in the 2022 governor's race. This is the same Kari Lake who has been vying to be Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate, a position that Marjorie Taylor Greene has also been vying for. I'm not surprised at all by this, given the fact that Kari Lake has kept herself in the news by being one of Trump's defenders in the media. But I do have an important question for Kari Lake. How are you going to keep contesting the 2022 Arizona governor's race when you are trying to run for Kyrsten Sinema's Senate seat? I mean, you can't do both at the same time, especially when you have had Christ knows how many lawsuits challenging the results of that election thrown out in court. What I'm saying here is that Kari Lake has decided if she is going to keep filing these lie-filled, ridiculous lawsuits because she can't accept the fact that she lost the race for Arizona governor fair and square, or if she's going to move on to her next grift where she runs for the U.S. Senate, because she can't have it both ways. And finally, on the inaugural episode of the That Damn Progressive podcast, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein has died at the age of 90 years old this past Thursday night. As we know, Senator Feinstein has been in declining health for a while now, and according to the New York Times, Ms. Feinstein died Thursday night. Her condition had grown more acute over the past several months after a bout with shingles that caused serious complications, including a case of, and I'm sorry if I butcher this, encephalitis? I think that's how you pronounce that. And prompted her to begin using a wheelchair in the halls of the Capitol. Senator Feinstein has also been struggling with cognitive decline, as we have seen in some of her final public appearances, which include her announcing her retirement only to contradict herself when she was asked about it by a reporter, saying she wasn't retiring, only for one of Feinstein's staffers to tell her they put out a statement already saying as much. This was confirmed in a Twitter post. I refuse to call it X because it's pointless rebranding on the part of right-wing, useful idiot Elon Musk. National Journal reporter Savannah Berman tweeted out her interaction with Senator Feinstein. According to her tweet, and I'm still going to call it a tweet, Feinstein on her retirement, "I haven't made that decision. I haven't released anything," only for a staffer to tell her, "We put out the statement." Feinstein responded with, "You put out the statement? I didn't know they put it out." And that was on Valentine's Day of this year. Senator Feinstein was not well in her final years. Let's just be honest about that. And while we're at it, let's also acknowledge how fellow corporate Democrats wanted Senator Feinstein to stay in her seat for as long as she could. This came after California Governor Gavin Newsom, who will be debating, the governor of my state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, in a couple of months on Fox News, pledged to nominate a black woman to fill Feinstein's Senate seat, according to a report from CNN. It should be noted that Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee is currently running in a contested Democratic primary against fellow House Representatives Katie Porter, who I actually enjoy. I love the fact that she's calling out corruption and bullshit, especially with the marker board, so eat shit, Glenn Beck. And Adam Schiff, who led the case for the Democrats in the first of the two impeachment trials of failed former President Donald Trump. I would like to point out that Barbara Lee is a former co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and is popular with liberals and a star among progressives, much like Katie Porter. So Gavin Newsom put himself in a position where he would have to nominate someone to fill Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat. And now with Feinstein's passing, Newsom is going to have to appoint someone soon, as Democrats now only have a 50-49 majority, possibly tied at 49-49 should Senator Bob Menendez has resigned from his Senate seat due to his goddamn legal situation. But when you also factor in fake Democrats like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, Democrats lose their damn lead. Think about that for just a second. We did not factor that one in now, did we? Because of fucking Manchin and Sinema, Democrats in the Senate might not be able to pass a goddamn thing to help the American people. So Gavin Newsom better pick a replacement soon, as the Democrats' slim Senate majority is in jeopardy. Thank you for listening. Please follow the show on Twitter at @TDP_pod. music created using Music Maker Jam. News stories are from Newsweek, CNN, The Hill, NBC News, The Associated Press, The Wall Street Journal, Mediaite, HuffPost, the U.S. State's Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, Yahoo News, and the Democratic House Committee on Oversight and Accountability. The definition of the word treason is from Merriam-Webster.com.